Alright, let's go ahead and get started on this coffee table. I actually picked this up off of Facebook Marketplace, and we're going to go ahead and restore it. As you can see, it's not in horrible condition. These feet are awesome, and I think it's going to look good, kind of a little updated version. You see here on the glare of the light there on the table, you can see it's got a fair amount of scratches on the top. It's actually kind of hard to catch that, but other than that, there's a few little dings, but I think overall it's going to be a fun project to tackle, so let's get to it. Alright, I'm going to throw it up here on the sawhorses and get these feet off real quick. Alright, now that we got the feet off, let's go ahead and put some stripper on here. I used the gel 15-minute stripper. Obviously, I used the 15 minutes just because it's a little bit quicker. And I used the gel because it hangs on edges better. And when doing this, definitely put on far more than you think you're going to need, because getting it off later is going to be way easier if there's too much versus not enough. So after it's been sitting for 15 minutes, go ahead and get a plastic scraper and you can go ahead and push it off. It should come off fairly easy. You can see it's pretty much just the clear that it's taken off here, so you're not going to see a bunch of color. But you see that little glob there. I'll scoop it off. And then you're going to want to go ahead and get all the edges. You can use the scraper here on the corner and then some mineral spirits for whatever's left over. Just put this on a rag, and then I'm using a stiff bristle brush to kind of get into all the corners because it's kind of hard to get into without anything else. So just go ahead and make your way around. If you're working on a similar project, just kind of use this technique around all the edges. So I should have probably taken the feet off before I did the top, but live and learn. Basically, I'm going to take the bottom half of the table off because when we go to paint it, it's going to be way easier to do it with it in two pieces versus the one piece and having to overspray it all over the bottom. So go ahead and pop that off. So it's got some wear on the bottom. Some of the stain kind of came off with the legs, but nothing too crazy. So we're going to take some 120 and 220 and get to sanding. I'm just using a rigid orbital sander, and then links for everything I'm using is going to be in the description. So go ahead and start with that 120. It's going to feel like you're sanding your entire life away, so go ahead and just take your time on this. As soon as you got that first round done, you're going to go ahead and move to 220 and do the same thing over again. Alright, now that you got the top and bottom sanded, let's go ahead and stain it. We're going to use Minwax Dark Walnut on this. So we'll go ahead and start on the bottom. I like using a foam brush, but use a towel, whatever you think is going to work best. So go ahead and give her a cover. Let it sit anywhere from a few minutes to 10 minutes, but don't let it completely dry on there, or again, it's going to be extremely hard to wipe it all off. So go ahead and do this on the top and the bottom. Okay, we got the table flipped over, now we're doing the top. Just the exact same thing as the bottom. I was kind of hoping that this top would come out a little bit darker than it did, but when you're staining wood, it's kind of hit and miss on what it's actually going to look like. But still looks pretty cool. So let's go ahead and wipe it off, and then we'll get to clear coating. Alright guys, so this is the gun I'm going to be using, True Coat 360. I've actually never used this. I've seen a lot of good reviews, so let's give her a try. Polyacrylic will be the clear coat that we'll be using. Just a little side note, this is water-based. If you're going to be spraying anything with this gun, make sure that it's water-based, because that's the only thing that you can shoot out of it. You're not going to want to shoot like a lacquer or anything through that gun. So we'll take the tack cloth and go ahead and wipe everything off. Make sure there's no lint or dust on there for when we start shooting the clear coat, so it comes out nice and smooth. So after using this gun for the first time, I'd have to say it's pretty freaking awesome. I was kind of messing around with it to see how much you could spray out of it without getting any runs on another piece, and you basically don't want to go over anything more than twice. Alright, so first coat, it's on. This is semi-gloss. I think we're going to do 2 coats, so this is kind of what it's looking like. Actually looks really good for just 1 coat. That gun's actually pretty nice, so we'll go ahead and sand her down, do another coat, see what she looks like. Sand her down with some 220. And just remember, after you're done sanding, to go over it with that tack cloth again and get off any dust. Same thing applies. I wouldn't do more than 2 coats. Also, watch where you're stepping, or else you might just go down in your own garage. Nobody saw that, right? It's looking pretty good. So now that we got the top done, we'll go ahead, start working on the legs. I just wanted to get this done and drying before we moved on to the legs, because this was the part I was most stressed about, making sure it turned out nice before we got to the legs. So time for them legs, let's go. So back to sanding we go. Just do this again. I'm going to do 120. It's going to seem like you're sanding your entire life away again. So go ahead and just take your time. I'm not going to bore you with the whole process, but basically hit all the areas you can with the sander that you have. Then after that, you're going to move over to some hand sanding, getting those spots that you couldn't reach otherwise. Again, this is the hard part, so take your time. Take the tack cloth, go ahead and wipe it down like we did before, and then she'll be ready to start priming. Now it's ready for some primer, so I'm going to use this Bullseye 123 primer. Got this recommended to me by a friend. So let's go ahead and shoot this on, and then I let it sit for about an hour, and then kind of check it, see if there's any spots that needed to be touched up or sanded. But it did look good, so let's go ahead and move on to some paint. When I was using this gun, it says that you don't have to thin the paint to shoot it with the gun, but I would recommend thinning it just slightly. Seems like it's a little bit hard on the gun, but right here I was not thinning it, and it still turned out pretty good, but that's what I would recommend if you're going to use this gun. Now for the fun part, antiquing. So take that dark walnut stain in your brush and go ahead and start putting it on. How you put it on isn't a big deal, and when you wipe it off is how you're going to want it to look in the end. So you leave more on if you want it to look a little more antiqued versus, less. And again, you're not going to see the bottom, but I do like the whole thing to kind of match. So if you flip it over to move it or whatever, it doesn't look unfinished on the bottom. So go ahead and just go around and do this around the whole thing. In my case, once I'm doing it upside down, I'm going to be kind of wiping it off upward, so it kind of looks like gravity's been washing the dirt or whatever you want to go with, the aging look, off downward, so it's going to be opposite. Just going to have to wipe it upward. So just depending on your project, keep that in mind. Time to seal the whole thing up. Like I was saying before, do not go over it more than twice, in 2 passes meaning. If you do that, especially on a vertical surface with this gun, you're going to run the risk of runs. So just my little tip there, no more than 2 passes. But other than that, this thing turns out awesome. Time for them new shoes. Basically, I got white ones, and they're a little bit bigger than the ones that were on it to cover up the marks from the old ones. Go ahead, if you're doing the same thing, I'd recommend using a piece of wood and then a hammer on the top. Then this way it doesn't hurt the feet when you're hammering on it. So go ahead and do that times 4. Let's go ahead and put the base back on the top, line everything up, screw it all down, and then we'll be able to flip it over for the reveal. So like it just said, go ahead and comment Trooper if you made it all the way to the end, because not very many people do, and the ones that do, I actually do remember you guys as you guys keep commenting on the videos. So go ahead and type Trooper down below, and go ahead and let me know what you thought of the table, and let me know what you think this table's worth now that all the work has been done to it. If you were to do this exact same thing, let me know what you would sell it for. But this project's been awesome. You guys have been awesome. Go ahead, like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you guys on the next one. See ya!